I remember sitting down one night, looking at my bank account and thinking, how is it possible that people making the same income end up in completely different financial situations?
Same job level, similar salaries, but one person is stressed about bills and another is quietly building real wealth. And the weird part? It's usually not because one of them is some investing genius or spending hours analyzing stocks.
Most people assume building serious money means you need complicated strategies, perfect timing, or insider knowledge. So they jump from one idea to another. Crypto one month,
Options trading the next. Maybe real estate after that. Never really sticking with anything long enough to see results. But when I started digging into how people actually hit that first million, the pattern was surprisingly boring.
it wasn't luck, it wasn't complexity, it wasn't even high risk. It was one simple, repeatable behavior done consistently over time that created almost all of the results.
In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what that behavior is, why it works so well, especially right now, and how you can start applying it immediately without overhauling your entire life.
My name's Humphrey, and everything I'm about to walk you through comes from actually doing this in real life, not just reading about it. When I first started, I wasn't coming from some massive inheritance or a high-risk all-in strategy. I was working a normal job, earning a solid but not outrageous income, and trying to figure out how people realistically build toward that first million. It took me about 5 years to cross that mark, and along the way, I tried a little bit of everything. Stock picking, timing entries, even chasing trends that, in hindsight, didn't really move the needle. What I realized pretty quickly is that most of those things made me feel productive, but they weren't actually the drivers of my net worth. The real progress came from a system, something automatic, repeatable, and honestly a little boring that kept working whether I felt motivated or not. And I've seen this pattern play out over and over again. People who struggle financially tend to spread their attention across too many strategies at once. They're constantly adjusting, reacting, second-guessing. Meanwhile, the people who actually build wealth usually lock in on one core behavior and just let it compound. That difference, focus versus noise, is bigger than most people realize. If you're being honest with yourself, you've probably tried a few different things already. Maybe you started a side hustle, got excited for a couple weeks, then life got busy and it faded out. Or you told yourself you'd start saving more, but some months it works and other months it just doesn't. And when it comes to investing, it can feel like you're just guessing, putting money here and there without really knowing if you're doing it right. Then you go online and it just gets worse. One person says focus on real estate, another says stocks, someone else is pushing businesses or crypto. It starts to feel like you need to be doing everything at once just to keep up. So what ends up happening is this cycle. You earn money, you spend most of it, you try to save what's left, it's inconsistent, and then you reset and do it all over again next month. And the frustrating part is, it doesn't feel like you're lazy. You're trying, you're thinking about money more than most people. But the problem usually isn't effort, it's that there's no clear system driving everything. And once that's missing, even smart, hardworking people stay stuck way longer than they should.
When you strip everything down, building wealth usually comes back to one core lever. And for most people in the early stages, it's not picking the perfect investment or timing the market. It's how much of your income you consistently keep and deploy. Think of it this way. Your savings rate isn't just about being good with money. It's the engine that feeds everything else. You can earn a decent income, but if only a small percentage actually gets invested, progress will feel slow no matter what strategy you use. On the flip side, someone earning the same amount but consistently directing a larger portion into investments is quietly building momentum every single month. But here's where most people get stuck. They treat this like a decision they have to make over and over again. I'll save more this month. I'll invest what's left. That approach relies on willpower, and willpower is unreliable. The shift happens when you turn that behavior into a system. Instead of deciding each time, you automate it. A fixed percentage of your income moves out the moment it comes in, into investments, into savings, before you even have a chance to spend it. It becomes your default, not something you negotiate with yourself every month. At first, it doesn't feel dramatic. You're putting money away, your accounts are growing slowly, and it can seem almost underwhelming. But over time, something interesting happens. The contributions stack, the returns start generating their own returns, and what felt small in the beginning starts accelerating. It's not a sudden jump, it's a gradual shift that compounds into something meaningful. And this is exactly why simplicity tends to win. When the system is straightforward, You don't burn energy making constant decisions. You're less likely to fall off track. And most importantly, it scales with you. As your income grows, that same system naturally grows with it, without needing to reinvent your strategy every few months.
So let's make sure this actually makes sense on a practical level, because once you understand the mechanics, it stops feeling abstract. When people talk about a savings rate, they're not just saying save money. It's the percentage of your income that you keep and invest. So if you earn $1,000 and consistently invest $300, that's a 30% savings rate. That number matters a lot more than most people realize, because it directly controls how fast you can build wealth. Now, where that money goes is just as important, but it doesn't need to be complicated. For most people, this ends up being broad, low-cost index funds or ETFs. Instead of trying to pick individual winners, you're essentially buying a small piece of the entire market. Over time, as businesses grow and economies expand, your investment grows with them. The automation part is what ties everything together. Think of it like setting your bills on autopay, but instead of paying someone else, you're paying your future self. The money moves out of your account as soon as you get paid, so you're never relying on discipline in the moment. And then compounding does the heavy lifting. Your money earns returns, those returns start earning their own returns, and over time, it builds on itself. Kind of like a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger without you needing to constantly push it. When you lock in on one system like this, everything starts moving faster, not because you're doing more, but because you've removed the friction that usually slows people down. Instead of constantly asking yourself, should I save this month? Or where should I invest right now? Those decisions are already made. The money moves automatically, the investments happen consistently, and you're no longer burning mental energy trying to optimize every little choice. That reduction in decision fatigue is bigger than it sounds. It's what allows you to stay consistent for years, not just a few motivated weeks. And in today's environment, that consistency matters even more. With rising costs and inflation quietly eating away at cash, doing nothing is actually a decision, with consequences. A system like this ensures that your money is always being deployed, always working, instead of sitting idle and losing value over time. On a practical level, it also gives you clarity. You know exactly what's happening every month, how much is being saved, where it's going, and why. That structure makes it easier to plan bigger goals, whether that's financial independence, more flexibility in your career, or just having a solid cushion. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing the one thing that actually moves you forward consistently.
If you want to actually put this into motion, it doesn't require a complete life overhaul. It just needs a clear starting point. First, figure out your dominant lever right now. For most people, early on, it's your savings rate. How much of your income you can consistently direct toward investments. If your income is still growing, that can become a secondary lever, but you need one primary focus. Next, define a concrete target. Not something vague like, I'll save more, but an actual number, maybe 20% of your income, maybe a fixed monthly amount. The exact number matters less than making it specific and repeatable. Then, automate it. Set it up so that as soon as your income hits your account, a portion moves out immediately into your investment or savings account. Treat it like a non-negotiable expense, not something you decide on later. After that, keep tracking simple. You don't need to check your accounts every day. Just review once a month, make sure the system is running and your contributions are happening as planned. And finally, as your income increases, scale the system. Increase your percentage or your monthly amount gradually. That's how this stays effective over time without adding complexity or stress. One of the most common things I see is people trying too many strategies at once. They'll start with investing, then jump into crypto, then think about real estate, all in the same year. It usually comes from excitement, but the result is scattered effort and no real momentum anywhere. Another big one is constantly switching approaches. Someone starts index investing, doesn't see fast results in a few months, and then pivots to something better. The problem is, most wealth-building systems only work if you stay in them long enough for compounding to matter. Then there's the idea of waiting for the perfect investment setup. People hold cash on the sidelines for years, thinking they'll enter at the ideal time, but end up missing entire cycles of growth. A lot of people also never automate anything. They rely on memory or motivation to invest, which means it works some months and fails in others. And finally, lifestyle inflation quietly cancels progress. Income goes up, spending rises with it, and the gap that should be building wealth just disappears. The fix in almost every case is the same: simplify, automate, and stay consistent long enough for the system to actually work.
At this point, I'm curious where you actually see yourself in all of this, because most people watching this already have some version of a financial system in place, even if they don't call it that. The real question is whether it's actually working for you or just kind of happening in the background without clear direction. What do you think is your biggest bottleneck right now? Is it income not being high enough yet? Or is it that money comes in but doesn't consistently stay and grow? And be honest with yourself here. Are you focusing on too many things at once, like trying to invest, start side hustles, save aggressively, and optimize everything simultaneously, but without one clear priority holding it all together? I've noticed people usually have a pretty good instinct about what's going wrong, but they don't always slow down enough to name it clearly. So I'd be interested to hear how this shows up for you. What part of your financial situation feels the most inconsistent or unclear right now? At the end of the day, building wealth really doesn't come down to doing everything at once. It comes down to doing one meaningful thing extremely well and letting time do the rest of the work. Most people assume they need a complex setup, multiple income streams, perfect stock picks, constant optimization. But in practice, the people who actually move forward are usually the ones who simplify everything into a system they can repeat without overthinking it. Once that system is in place, consistency becomes the real advantage. Not intensity, not luck. Just showing up the same way month after month, even when it feels like nothing dramatic is happening. And the interesting part is, simplicity is often underrated because it doesn't feel impressive in the moment. But over years, it's exactly what creates stability, momentum, and ultimately real financial freedom. If you strip away all the noise, the direction becomes clearer. Set up a system, stick to it long enough, and let compounding quietly do its job. That's usually where people finally feel a shift, not just in their net worth, but in how much control they actually have over their financial life. If this idea clicks with you, the next step is really just building on it piece by piece. A good place to go from here is understanding how to actually choose the right baseline savings rate for your situation, or how index investing works in a bit more detail so you know exactly what your money is doing once it's automated. Because once the system is set, the real growth comes from refining it, not constantly reinventing it. I've covered those topics in other videos where I break down things like how to start investing with simple index funds, or how to structure your money so automation actually works in real life, not just in theory. If you want to go deeper, that's usually the next logical step. Taking this simple framework and learning how to apply it more precisely to your own income and goals.